Hi, welcome to another edition of Trader Talk TV. Today I'm joined by Anant Joshi from Meetrics, and we're going to be talking about brand safety. Anant, can you tell everyone a little bit about what you do and what Meetrics does?
Great, thank you Rebecca, and great to be here. So yeah, I'm Anant and I look after international business at Meetrics. We specialise in four main areas: viewability, ad fraud, brand safety and audience measurement. Today we're going to be talking around how ads get misplaced, especially around brand safety. So that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Perfect, so let's kick off with exactly that. How can ads get misplaced?
Yes, so I guess if you're thinking about the traditional way of doing direct buys,
where through an IO?
Through an IO basis, and you would have maybe a single site that you're running on. You used to be able to send the creatives beforehand to the operations team. They used to vet it or have the opportunity to vet it and deploy it on the site. Then you could also do within the IO, say where you want it to run. Do you want it on run of site or do you want a specific section of the site? But sometimes human error happens, and if there's targeting involved, it could end up on a channel or area of the site that maybe the advertiser didn't want to be placed against if it was something not sensitive, for example. So that's when you have one single publisher or site. When you have an ad network where you've got multiple sites, maybe 50 or 100, it gets a little bit more harder to measure because you've got multiple sites to deal with, different pages. So it needs a little bit more control. So therefore mistakes can happen there as well. But
so with a one-to-one publisher direct relationship, you have quite a lot of control, but not total control, because there's a degree of human error and site content evolution. But scale creates an even bigger problem because you have to manage that over and over and over again.
Exactly. So when it comes to scale, that's the beauty of having programmatic, is that you can reach a wider audience. It's more efficient in terms of process, but it also has its challenges. If you've got information coming, especially on the open RTB, you have a number of sites now, thousands of sites. And you also need to rely on information coming from those sites in terms of transmitted information, which actual domain it is. So the tact of the trading desk is actually to create a blacklist of domains, and that blacklist of domains would have sites related to content like adult content or violence or
all the stuff that brands don't want their ads to appear against.
They definitely don't want to. And so the idea is not to be running on those sites. And so especially if, say, a trading desk doesn't have those list of domains, because also what can happen is it's a bit of a cat and mouse game, because if suddenly those sites aren't getting the revenue, they could easily set up and register another site with the same content on a different day. So you have to sort of keep on top of that list. It's continually chasing that list. So you can, if you don't have a blacklist, you could use pre-bidding services from a company, a verification company. But now what we're seeing more recently is people adopting a whitelist approach. So you basically have a list of trusted sites that you're running on, and within that group of sites, you will still get potential of transmitted information. So there could be referrer, but you're not doing this cat and mouse game. So you're only running on a selected list of trusted publishers. So I guess really what you're looking to do, especially with programmatic, is that you have to be aware that we have to be tolerant to a certain level of risk. But the idea is to sort of mitigate that risk.
Because the benefit is you're getting scale.
Exactly.
That comes with a small amount of risk.
Exactly, yeah.
So what does all of this look like through the eyes of the publisher?
Okay, so let's try and draw something out here.
Cool.
So let's look at a site. So this is let's say it's a single publisher page here. Okay, and so we got our page, and let's say that our ad is located here.
So this is just a normal publisher page, maybe a news site, and they're monetizing their content with ads.
Right, okay, so this is our ad. Okay, so effectively an ad can be placed directly here. An ad is basically a bit of HTML code. It can make calls to the ad server with loading in graphics and scripts and tracking pixels. So a publisher can place it directly on the page, or they can encapsulate it in an iframe. So let's draw our iframe.
And I take it that's a smiley face, so iframes are good?
Yep, iframes are good. So this one is good, and say that. My daughter would draw me with spiky hair, but we'll leave the spiky hair off at the moment. So the reason why this is good is that it's encapsulated in this frame, and normally people or publishers are using iframes to encapsulate loading performance and things like that.
So the iframe goes around the ad.
Yeah, exactly. But what is interesting about a cross-site iframe is that if you imagine that this is a fence, and now we have a little door in the fence, so you can actually go through that door and see what's going on in the page. So here we've got our text on the page, and as a verification company you can actually scan this page for certain keywords related to those problem categories, I guess.
So you can see the context.
So you can see the context on the page, right, exactly. And the idea then is also through this iframe you can actually check what the actual site that you're on. So let's say this is called site. Okay, so that's site.com. So yeah, you can actually find out what the top level domain is in this process when it's a friendly iframe.
So it's completely transparent.
It's
you know
completely
what
transparent.
The context is,
right.
And you know where the ad is.
Right, exactly. But I guess when you're looking at especially programmatic delivery, and also in terms of publishers who want to protect the information, especially from a consumer point of view, this ad normally would be encapsulated by something called a cross-site iframe, so it's not friendly anymore. The reason why it's a cross-site iframe is that it's actually on a different domain located to this one. So what you could consider it as, if you imagine that this is other.com, so if you imagine that this is the old TVs that used to have picture-in-picture, that this is basically like a picture in a picture, but also this is like another domain. So in a way now you can't actually, as a verification company, break out of this and scan what's going on the page.
So you're restricted to
you're
the
restricted.
information that's in that.
Exactly,
iframe.
you're restricted in what's going on there. But you can ask this iframe, where did you originate from? What was your referrer? So we can say, okay, so what is the referrer? And what we'll get as a reply is it will say, actually, it's not other.com, it's actually site.com, and then we pull that back inside the ad. So
okay, so this iframe can't get this information, but it can ask the other ones.
It can ask this one, this other.com, what was your referrer, and it will reply with site.com. Okay, so, but now it gets a little bit more complicated because we have another iframe. So here, especially when we have multiple companies in the loop in programmatic, so here we'll have another .com. So now, because it's sitting on another, if we ask this one, well, what's your referrer, it will come up with another .com. So now we can't get the referrer, so that doesn't work because it's coming up with that.
Yep.
So effectively you can't understand what's going on there.
So you don't know which page that ad's on.
Exactly.
Anymore.
When it's in this this process here within multiple nested iframes is what we call it. So more than two iframes deep.
So they'll exist at the same time. You don't have one or
Yeah.
the other. They layer.
Yeah, they layer. So I mean, just for schematic reasons, it's not. It's all encased in one size. It's not like making it into a double MPU. So yeah, that's the data. So I guess the challenge here is to try and figure out what this true domain is and what sort of content is on this site.
Okay, so how can the industry react to this, and how can they mitigate any risk that comes from not knowing the context and not knowing the site?
Yeah, so I guess the way to do it, there's a few ways. So let's talk about two ways. First of all, I guess you could actually get some page crawlers, and what will happen is that it will come to this site and it will, from a top down approach, to scan the whole page and know everything what's going on. The second approach would be to have, say, browser extensions. So if you've got an extension within your browser, that will start to record that sort of information on what's going on this page, but it's not really scalable, both those things. So if we think about it from I guess a verification point of view, if our scripts are always in this area, then we can do a lot to verify what's going on in here. So that's one way, to make sure the scripts is in there. But us as a verification company, we also use other techniques to actually look a bit bigger picture and figure out what's going on in terms of the browser. So if we're looking at sort of two main browser technologies, so first you have WebKit, and that makes the basis of Chrome and Safari, which is basically about 2/3 of the global stats. Certain countries it goes higher or lower. So within WebKit, you can actually ask, what was your history of your domain? So there's a function you can call, and it actually comes back and it lists all these domains for all the top level domains. So you can actually figure that out from asking those browsers.
So it can look at a history, basically,
exactly.
a log.
Exactly, yeah. So we can gather all that information. And then the other two technologies, there's one called Gecko, which is Firefox, and then you have Trident, which is made up of IE and also Edge, Microsoft Edge. So within that information, you're getting less information actually, but what you can rely on is the bin information that's coming through, and that can then be validated to the actual domain the user is on. So then
there's a match.
Exactly, yeah. If there's a match. So then together that builds up the picture of what's going on in terms of verifying where the domain is at.
And I guess there's responsibility on the buy side and the sell side here.
Yep.
The sell side obviously need to make sure that they're doing as much as they can to stop bad placements, etc. from their side, but the sell side the buy side has a degree of responsibility as well. So you mentioned maintaining the blacklist and the whitelist, but what more can they do? Who is responsible overall?
Yeah, so I think overall, it's it should be everyone's responsibility throughout the chain to check the inventory. From the buy side, it's really important to measure the campaigns and make sure you're reaching the right audience, you're on the correct websites. So it's their responsibility to sort of check that. And then from a sell side point of view is to also look at your own inventory, make sure that you're continuously auditing your own inventory, make sure there's no blind spots in the inventory that you're offering, and also especially for large publishers or ad networks that are also running audience extension, basically buying the same audience on their normal site but programmatic on other sites. It's really important to also monitor what's going on those sites, and the buy side also knowing that they have those capabilities, or they're being transparent to say, okay, we're doing an audience extension buy, these are the sites that we're running on, just so you know, sort of thing. So but overall, and everyone in between, all the companies should be doing all they can to sort of improve the quality of the inventory, and weeding out the bad players in the marketplace.
So it sounds like a really important area where publishers and buyers should be investing quality resource and also time.
Exactly.
To make sure that they're solving this.
Totally. Yeah.
Great. Anant, thank you very much for joining us. It's been a pleasure to have you in. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time on Trader Talk TV.
Great.